Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Mark.
And I'm Rob.
Today, we're going to talk about the DeJounte Carrington eye gouge of Caitlin Clark in playoff game number 1 between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. Hit the notification bell when you do so you get notified of our next videos. If you think Caitlin Clark is a great player, subscribe to our channel. If you like the Green Bay Packers, subscribe to our channel. Hey. Forget about Rob's Cleveland Browns, Green Bay Packers, Buffalo Bills. Those are the important ones. Philadelphia Eagles. Anyways, Rob. Okay, so I guess let's address the first issue. Everybody's seen the video by now where DeJounte Carrington went to block a pass by Caitlin Clark, followed through, curled her hand into her eyes, and gouged her in the eye. Now, the question is, if you've seen it in 2 different angles, the second angle shows that her hand went from straight up and then curled it and into her eyes. In fact, the ball was already past her. So she wasn't looking at the ball anymore. She was looking straight at Caitlin Clark. So the first question is, was it intentional? Let's just start with the elephant in the room. Was it intentional? You want to go first, Rob?
Yeah, it was hell yeah, it was intentional. It definitely was. I mean, from any other angle. I mean, you can do different angles, whatever. The second one showed the best, but it was totally intentional. I mean, she had at least Clark had already passed the ball, and if it wasn't intentional, her right hand would have been already like going towards the ball to try to deflect it. Instead, she already passed the ball, and then she did the gouging of the eyes, the Three Stooges gouging of the eyes, you know. And again, what really pisses me off is that the league does nothing. They complain about the different things, but something that could injure a player, maybe even end her career, could have ended her career if that nail had gotten into her eye and really scratched it. If it had gotten into her eye, she could have been blinded for life. It's not even like a basketball thing. It comes into a personal life thing where you could permanently injure somebody for life. Yet, not a peep, not from anywhere, sports shows or anything like that. They glossed it over. Yeah, but not a peep from any ESPN or any of the news media.
Oh, in fact, ESPN said this is not an issue. And Sports Center, they said, we could talk about DeJounte Carrington's. We don't have to talk about that. It's not an issue. So, and it is an issue. And my feeling is, Rob, I'm like 99% sure that it was intentional. And she does not get the benefit of the doubt from anybody because we all know she hates Caitlin Clark. And I think the look that you see with the hand is just so unnatural. That's the strongest argument. Now, I know it's slow motion and everything that people argue can make anything look like slow motion. Slow motion doesn't make the hand change the curvature. Okay, that slow motion doesn't do that. Only her hand does, and she's still looking at Caitlin Clark. And I don't know if she intentionally intended to do that before it happened, or if it just kind of like instinctually came when she goes, "Oh, I got a shot at her eye now," and just did it. I can't tell you what's going through her head, and only she knows for sure whether she did it. But either way, it's like when you hit someone in the head when someone's driving to the basket and it's a foul. That's still a foul. It doesn't have to be intentional. And that should have been a foul call with the flagrant 1 at the time, regardless of whether it was intentional or not. And if it was intentional, it should have been a flagrant 2. Now, they didn't have the reverse angle at the time, but they saw Caitlin Clark fall to the ground in pain, and they saw her get hit to the head. So they should have called a foul right away and reviewed it. I'm not sure what angle they would have at that time, whether they have the reverse angle that we saw in the slow motion, but they would have seen it was a foul, and they could have listed it as a flagrant 1, which would have worked out really well, because then the league could have upgraded to a flagrant 2 and suspended her for the next game, which we'll get to.
Yeah, I mean they should. Yeah, it's incredible, Mark.
Okay, so anyways, I have no idea why they don't want to talk about this in the mainstream media. In fact, the LA Times had a headline. They needed to change it twice because people said that, gosh, you didn't say that this wasn't intentional in the headline. And they had to change it twice because people got upset about the LA Times. They didn't even say that she did it intentionally. She said that the person that gouged her, she had a beef with in the past. They didn't like that headline. So that was kind of strange. But my first instinct is this seems rather extreme and unbelievable that someone would just gouge someone in the eye. And then I recall Draymond Green hitting people in the nuts with his foot and his hand, and did it 3 or 4 times before he finally got suspended. So in that sense, okay, maybe it's not so unbelievable and so extreme that someone would do this. And we all know everyone hates Caitlin Clark. They don't want her to win in the playoffs. They know she's a dangerous player because she's so unique. So I can see the cheap shot, even though I still find it hard to believe in some ways that somebody would actually do that to somebody.
Well, Mark, that's not a cheap shot. Like I said, that's not even a cheap shot.
Well, I know it's worse than a cheap shot, but
you're a lawyer with, like you said, the intent. What was the intent is there. No matter what, she can say this and that about it, but what was her intent? To try to injure another player for no reason.
Right. Well,
because you didn't like her.
Well, we know she doesn't like her, and she's made anti-white comments in the media, and she's made anti-Caitlin Clark comments. She pretended Caitlin Clark flopped when she didn't. She was a legitimate foul call. She's just not a good person. And, I wonder, Rob, if the reaction by the league, which has been non-existent, would have been different if Caitlin Clark did this to DJ Carrington, a straight white person doing it to the majority in the league, which apparently that's the majority in the league, is black lesbians, whether the reaction will be exactly the same or not. And I don't even think Caitlin Clark will be alive anymore, at least in the next game that she plays, if she did that to DJ Carrington. Nothing happened to DJ Carrington as a result of this. And so far, the commissioner has said nothing. She hasn't even said, we evaluated it and we determined it wasn't intentional. She didn't even say that we looked at it. How can you not look at this when everybody else saying, hey, at least there's a question here on whether or not it's intentional? They didn't even do that.
Yeah.
And then Christine Brennan, who's a reputable sports writer, award-winning sports writer for like 40 years, she asked DJ Carrington about it. And as soon as DJ Carrington got asked about whether it was intentional, she looked the other way. Now, anyone who knows anything about body language, and when people lie, they look the other direction. When they're telling the truth, they look right at you, unless you're a great liar. And then she said, well, I don't even know why I would do that. Well, you're not even answering the question. So again, as a criminal defense attorney, when someone doesn't answer my question, I question whether or not they're being honest, because they don't like the answer they have to give. And then eventually she said, I didn't even know I hit her. Well, now you're lying. So first you look away, and then you change the subject, and then you don't answer the question, and then you lie. Now, everybody that's ever played any sports or has been in any kind of scuffle with anybody knows when you hit somebody because your finger has feelings. So it's very easy to know whether you hit someone in the face, whether it's the eye or not. So she lied about that. And she said, I was just going for the ball, made a play, and I guess I hit her, So she lied. So why would I believe her now that she didn't do this intentionally if she lied about the reason?
She reminded me of when I used to teach English over in Taiwan, and one of my students hit the other player, hit the other person. I said, did you hit him? He goes, no, teacher, I didn't hit him. I go, well, I saw you hit him. No, teacher, I didn't hit him. I saw you hit him. I didn't hit him, teacher. My arm hit him. Your arm is part of you. That's what this sounds like.
So here's how, if I was speaking the truth, like I unintentionally hit Caitlin Clark, which I maintain is like a 1% chance of that. This is what I would have said. I was going for the ball. I unintentionally hit her in the face. I don't know if I hit her in the eye. I don't know in the face. I unintentionally hit her. I didn't mean to, but I certainly didn't go for her eye. That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
And that would have been an honest answer. I hit her in the face. I didn't mean to. Okay. It's possible. Especially, if you didn't see that one angle, I would have believed her.
But then there's no apology. I mean, like we talked about before in our other video about this. There is no apology. There's no Mark, the referee didn't come over and help her. I mean, I would have been off the bench. As a coach, I would have been off the bench and ran.
You would have been on the court. You would have been in the court.
I would have been on the court and run after like Clark, and then I would have freaking turned to Carrington, and said some. They probably would have threw me out of the game because I would have said some things to her that you can't print.
Well, Rob, I've unintentionally fouled people playing ultimate frisbee before. And if I did it and I thought I might have hit them in the head or something like that accidentally, I check to see if they're okay because it wasn't intentional. And that's why I did it. Let them know, listen, this wasn't intentional. I was going for the frisbee, or they call the disc is what we call it there. Same thing in it's exact situation. Ultimate frisbee and basketball, it's a non-contact sport, but occasionally both people go for the ball and someone gets hit in the face. So what you do is if you think you hit somebody in a dangerous area, you check to see if the person's okay. She walked away. She knew she hit her. She walked away. She didn't even see if she was okay. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because it was intentional.
You're right. You're right, Mark. I mean, I joke around, I discuss, and I'm I was an intense basketball player. But if there's one situation where I went up for a rebound and my elbow kind of hit the guy in the head, and I saw him go down. And I was like, oh shoot. I didn't know his head. I felt really bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I helped him up, and I didn't mean anything. He's like, it's cool. I'm like, no, I almost not bring to tears, but I was just like really upset that I actually hurt another human being. That really upset me. She had no upset, nothing bothered her. She could have injured her. She could have injured another human being, but she had no remorse at all.
She's not a good person, Rob.
No.
She said, what else besides 3 does she bring to the table? Well, you want me to throw out the stats and all the areas that she's good at? All right, I will, but I'm not going to. And then there's a video of her in Mabry. Marina Mabry comes up to her and goes like this, and then they're laughing about it. Now, I'm not sure what that meant. I did see a video of them, and, I can't tell if they're talking about the 3, but it happened after the play, actually, because the play happened really early in the first quarter. And some people think that indicates they were laughing about the 3. I don't know if it means that because it wasn't like in the eye; it was up here. So
they were saying it was like when Carmelo Anthony, when he used to hit the 3, he'd poke his head like that.
Yeah. So I'm not making that as an argument. Yeah. I got videotaped of the way she curled her hand enough to convince me that I really think she did it. Mm-hmm. Now, as for the refs, I mean, how do you not call a foul? Clark, I don't care what anybody says. She's not a flopper. Clark fell to the ground in obvious pain. Okay. And they didn't even call a foul. How do 3 refs swallow the whistle on that, Rob? And that should have been a foul and it should have been reviewed. And I can't believe that's what happened.
Yeah. How is that not reviewed, Mark? I mean, so what happened? They got the ball out of bounds or whatever. I mean, how can that not be a foul when a player falls to the ground, when another player hits them, and you don't call a foul, and you just stand? And he didn't. I mean, as a referee, Mark, I would have checked on her too. He just kind of stood there and looked down at her.
Oh, well, the refs don't like the refs. 90% of the refs don't like Caitlin Clark.
I mean, I would have.
I would have called a flagrant 1 after the review. Now,
the person's injured. If
I had the reverse angle, it would have been flagrant 2. Now, let's talk about the commissioner. Okay. So the commissioner's done nothing all year. The only thing she ever did is upgraded something that should have been a flagrant 2 that was called an off-the-ball foul from Kennedy Carter onto the ground, and she upgraded that to a flagrant 1 when it should have been a flagrant 2. No suspension. And that was an easy upgrade to 1. It was like minimum she could do. That was the absolute minimum she could have done in that situation, and she did the absolute minimum. And that's all she's ever done afterwards. No suspensions to anybody. She doesn't care about the violence in the league and the physicality. She doesn't care about how they're trying to hit Caitlin Clark and physically abuse her. She doesn't care. And this is a perfect situation. She's made no mention of it. She's done nothing. If I was a commissioner and I saw that reverse angle that everyone's seen, I would say, I can't take the chance whether it was intentional or not. It really looks intentional to me. As a compromise, because I think she's suspended for 2 games or for the rest of the series, I would suspend her for 1 game as a compromise since I'm not 100% sure. If I'm wrong, too bad. It was dangerous play the way she did that, and I would suspend her for 1 game because you have to protect the players. You do. You have to protect. And this is a star player. I'm not saying she get like a special whistle, but this is a star player. You have to protect the star players a little bit more than the other players. That's what I would do if I was the commissioner.
Yeah, but I mean, to sit in your hands and do nothing, it doesn't help your league at all. It just reinforces where we've talked about before. If I had a daughter and I wanted her to play pro basketball, I'd be like, nah, go play soccer. I want you to practice pro soccer. because they seem to enforce the rules better, or play volleyball. I don't want you playing professional basketball because you see what happened to one of your player, like Caitlin Clark, who was one of the most popular players in the league, and nothing is done. So if I had a daughter, I probably would deter her from playing the WNBA because of this reason.
Well, for soccer, I agree with you on women's soccer. They seem to enforce it. Men's soccer, they get away with too much physicality, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they flop.
That's another story. Yeah, in men's soccer. But if I'm the commissioner and if I was 100% sure that she did this, which I maintain, okay, I'm like 99% sure, I would suspend her for 2 games, in which case I would be sure Dejanay Carrington and Caitlin Clark would not be in the same court for the rest of the year. And then if the league or the Players Association objects to the 2-game suspension, my compromise will be, okay, for the rest of the series. It may be 1 and maybe 2. Now I got an out. I got a compromise. But either way, I would make sure that Dejanay Carrington didn't play in the rest of this series if I was 100% sure that she did that. But I would suspend her for 1 game regardless. And that's what needs to be done.
Yeah, but the main thing is, Mark, like you said, there was no even thought of investigating what happened. Not even a thought, not even an inkling of it.
There was no indication that there has been. The commissioner, this happened 2 days ago, and the commissioner has come out with any announcement whatsoever that we're even looking into it. She could have said, we looked at it, we're not convinced it's intentional. How can I suspend someone if it wasn't intentional? But still, they could have upgraded to a flagrant 1 with no suspension. She didn't even do that. They didn't even do a minimum of that, saying this should have been, because it's very similar to getting hit in the head when the person's driving to the basket. You have to be in control when you make swipes like that and blocks like that. You have to be in control. It doesn't have to be intentional for it to be a flagrant 1.
Right. But with me, Mark, I go with the human aspect. From the player who did it, from sides as a coach, to the referee, someone's hurt and lying on the ground. Nobody really made any kind of reaction to try to even console her or ask her if she's okay or help. If I was an opposing coach, I've done it before. Because I don't like to see anybody hurt. If I saw the opposing player get hurt, I'd run on the court too, to make sure the kid's okay or the person's okay.
Her players didn't do much at all after she got hit the ground.
Yeah, I mean that's just
her teammates. Where were her teammates on that? Where's her
coach? If that happened to you, Mark, I would have rushed over and, like I said, I probably would have rushed over at Camden and probably would have started a fight. I know I would have. I definitely would have. There would have been a fight.
This league is amazing that they don't want to protect their biggest draw in sports, and in fact, they want to do just the opposite. They want to not protect her. So I'm flabbergasted, Rob. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't know what other word to use.
Baffling.
It's baffling. It's everything. It's totally illogical. And these women that run the league, it's almost all women that run the league. I guess the marketing guy is a male. They have no sense of business. And this is all an example of that.
Well, they're already turning people. Caitlin Clark, let's be honest about this. Caitlin Clark brought in fans who never would watch the game, and they brought in her fans who watched her through the years in Iowa. So, and now if they don't realize that this is going to help the league, then they're going to miss out on it, and people are going to move or are not going to watch it anymore, no matter what. I heard people calling for Caitlin Clark to go to Europe, take her game to Europe, and just to see what would happen.
Well, they're obviously, Rob, decided they want Caitlin Clark fans without having Caitlin Clark, which isn't going to happen. And there's been this narrative in the league that she's privileged, and really nobody's against her. You guys are just imagining things when we know we're not imagining anything, and we can see the favoritism towards the other players in the league and away from Caitlin Clark. They are just not going to give her anything, Rob. And the refs are part of it. I'm convinced of that. I'm not a conspiracy person, but I've watched 41 games so far. The refs are part of this. For whatever reason, they're protecting the old guard players, mostly black lesbians in the league, and they don't want to see Caitlin Clark succeed. And this
seems like a ranking, right, Mark? Does it seem like there's a ranking?
A ranking of the players in the league in terms of who has the most control?
Right.
Well, we know the black lesbians, and then probably the white lesbians, and probably then the black straights, and then probably the white straights. The white straights are the minority in this league, and they have the least amount of power. There's no question in my mind, and that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I have to agree with you, Mark.
All right. So this unfortunately, nothing was done by the commissioners as of right now, and it's all about player empowerment, which we'll talk about in another video, where the commissioner seems to be afraid of the players and doesn't, even though she works for the owners, and doesn't seem to want to do anything about this. And that's what's happening. You know, that's what's the criticism about Adam Silver right now in the NBA. They say he's too much of a players commissioner and not enough of a league commissioner. Not as strict as Paul Tagliabue or David Stern were in terms of protecting the league and not the players. So, but this is way worse than that. This is Cathy Engelbert, or as Ben Daniels' podcast calls her, Cathy Engel Brain Dead, is a completely useless commissioner who doesn't no clue as to what she's doing. And
to me, it's a human being aspect too, not just player. You can care for another person. That's what it comes down to with me. It's really personal for me. It comes down to you don't care about this person.
Yeah, look at that point. Cathy Engelbert doesn't seem to care what Caitlin Clark had to go through. She just cares about everybody else in the league besides her, it seems like. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I'm so worried about what their feelings are. I don't worry about Caitlin Clark. And that seems very misguided to me and unfair. And it just shows she's incompetent. And it's quite obvious. It's the most incompetent commissioner and the worst run league I've ever seen in watching sports for 60 years.
And who knows, Mark? I think even though Caitlin Clark is in the league and other players are coming up into the league, people are going to watch Caitlin Clark, but I don't think, this really does hurt the league as far as its image.
Oh, sure. Because everybody's talking about it but the league and ESPN.
Yeah.
All right. That's my take. I'm 99% sure she did it on purpose. I would give her a flagrant one and a game suspension to protect the integrity of the league and protect the players, even if I wasn't 100% sure it was intentional. It sure looks that way to me. So
right.
That's what I would do. I would have to err on this side. And the commissioner is doing nothing and not even addressing it.
No, not
which
even.
I find insulting as a fan that she won't even address it. She could at least have investigated. They interviewed the players. Now, Caitlin Clark, for her part, took the high road and said, I didn't think it was intentional. But what do you want her to say? She doesn't want to be attacked anymore by players. And she doesn't know whether it's intentional or not. She might have seen the reverse angle by now. When it happened, she probably had no idea whether it was intentional or not because she just got hit in the face as they went through the ball. And she's on the ground. She's not even thinking about that.
You're hoping as a person that, that's the first thing you would think is like, why did you do this to me? Why did you do that?
Right.
What did I do to you? Why did you do that? And that's where she's coming from. Like, I don't think it's intentional. Why would this person want to do this to me? I did nothing to her.
I don't think Caitlin Clark knows whether it was intentional, so she didn't want to say one way or another. But she laughed it off and said, there's no way this is intentional. See the video. And I go, we saw the video. That's why we're asking.
She's
how
saint.
she really feels, I don't know. She's like me. Like, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm really close. So
she's a saint. She's a saint. She's a better person than I am as far as handling the stuff that's happened to her and been done to her. She's much better than most people. That's for sure.
I can understand if you're 100% sure that she did it on purpose. DeJounte Carrington does not get the benefit of the doubt based upon her previous behavior and her hatred for Caitlin Clark. So, anyways, all right. Well, nothing's going to happen, and that's why this league is the most childish, incompetent, unprofessional, poorly run league in the world.
Irresponsible.
And irresponsible. And that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. And if you like Caitlin Clark, subscribe to her channel. If you think that DeJounte Carrington should be suspended for at least a game, subscribe to her channel. If you think she shouldn't be suspended, subscribe to her channel. If you like NFL football or college football, subscribe to her channel because you're going to see a lot of football videos coming up now for the next few months until basketball season starts, and then we'll do basketball too. And anyways, so hey, if you like this video, hit the like button and join us for our live show. We can talk about this and the college football and NFL football games this weekend and Monday, and that's every Monday, 6 to 8 Eastern time, except for major holidays. And you can call in for that show, so it's pretty cool. If you want to donate to the channel, you can with super chats and super thanks down below. And you can also, there's a link to PayPal. And we'll see you in the next video.
Peace out.